The signal from the stars. The silence of deep space was broken by a desperate transmission. The message pulsed weakly across the vast emptiness between stars, a fading heartbeat searching for anyone who might hear it. The Vrilian people had once commanded a peaceful coalition spanning 3 star systems, their crystalline ships gliding between worlds like luminous fish in a cosmic ocean. But now their civilization teetered on the brink of extinction, their elegant vessels shattered, their colonies burning. In their final hour, they had cast their message into the void, a plea for salvation addressed to no one and everyone. The Vrilians had no reason to believe anyone would answer. The nearest known spacefaring civilization was hundreds of light years away. But desperation breeds hope, even when logic says there is none. On Earth, in the subterranean chambers of the Global Deep Space Monitoring Initiative, Dr. Elena Reyes stared at her screen with bloodshot eyes. For 3 years, she had monitored the automated systems that scanned the cosmos for signs of intelligent life. 3 years of false positives, of pulsars and quasars, and other natural phenomena that mimicked communication. 3 years of nothing. Until now. "Are you seeing this?" she whispered to Dr. Wei Chan, who was already leaning over her shoulder, his coffee forgotten in his hand. "It's structured," he murmured. "Definitely not natural." Elena nodded, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she ran analysis after analysis. The signals coming from the HD 85,512 system, about 36 light-years away. It's repeating." Her voice caught. "Wei, this is it. This is what we've been waiting for." Within hours, the facility was buzzing with activity. Government officials arrived, followed by specialists in linguistics, astrophysics, and xenobiology. The full might of Earth's scientific community focused on a single task: decoding the alien message. It took 17 days. 17 days of trial and error, of pattern recognition algorithms, and neural networks churning through petabytes of data. 17 days during which humanity collectively held its breath, waiting to hear the first words from another intelligent species. When the translation finally coalesced on Elena's screen, she felt her heart sink. "To any who hear this message, we are the Vrilian people. Our worlds burn. Our defenses fail. The Corvan Dominion consumes all in its path. We have nowhere left to flee. If any mercy exists among the stars, send aid. Please." The message repeated, cycling through variations of the same desperate plea. Accompanying the text were data packets, star charts, technical specifications, biological information. The Vrilians had included everything they thought might be useful to potential rescuers. "They're dying," Elena said softly. "They're dying right now, while we sit here." "Actually, no," Wei replied, tapping on his tablet. "Remember the light delay. This message was sent 36 years ago. They've either already been wiped out, or they've been holding on all this time, waiting for someone to answer." Elena finished. The UN Security Council convened an emergency session. For the first time in human history, representatives from every nation gathered to address a threat not to Earth, but to another species entirely. The debates were fierce. Some argued that humanity should not interfere in an alien conflict. Others insisted that moral obligation transcended species boundaries. But as the Vrilian data was analyzed, a new factor emerged, one that shifted the balance of the debate. Admiral James Carter, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, addressed the council with grim certainty. The technical specifications the Vrilians provided for these Corvan ships indicate weapon systems far beyond anything we've developed. If they've conquered the Vrilians, what's to stop them from finding us next? We may not be an immediate target, but eventually they'll expand in our direction. Self-preservation proved a more compelling argument than altruism. Within weeks, Operation Distant Shield was approved, a joint military and scientific expedition to the HD 85,512 system. The mission: assess the situation, provide aid to any surviving Vrelians, and gather intelligence on the Corvin threat. Earth's most advanced spacecraft, the UNS Prometheus, was retrofit for the journey. Originally designed for a manned mission to Europa, it was now equipped with experimental fusion drives that would push it to 1/10 the speed of light. The journey would still take over 350 years. But that was before Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura proposed using the Alcubierre warp technology his team had been developing in secret. "It's experimental," he admitted to the project leaders. "We've only tested it on probes so far. But it works. It actually works. We can create a bubble of space-time that contracts in front of the ship and expands behind it, effectively moving it faster than light without violating relativistic principles." With the Alcubierre drive, the journey time dropped from centuries to just 7 months. The crew selection process was intense. Each member had to be cross-trained in multiple disciplines. Each had to pass rigorous psychological evaluations proving they could handle potential first contact scenarios. And each had to accept the possibility that they might never return to Earth. Captain Maya Davidson, a veteran of 3 orbital campaigns during the South China Sea crisis, was selected to command. Dr. Elena Reyes, who had first detected the signal, would lead the scientific contingent, and Specialist Jackson Torres, whose background in special operations made him uniquely qualified for the unknown dangers they might face, would head the security team. As launch day approached, humanity united in a way it never had before. Old conflicts were temporarily set aside. Resources poured into the mission from every corner of the globe. For the first time in history, all of Earth's nations worked toward a common goal beyond their own planet. On March 17, 2089, the UNS Prometheus departed Earth orbit. The moment was broadcast globally. Billions watched as the ship's Alcubierre drive engaged, creating a ripple in the fabric of space that seemed to swallow the vessel whole. And then they were gone. The journey was not without incident. Twice, the Alcubierre drive failed, leaving the ship drifting in interstellar space while the engineering team performed desperate repairs. Once, they narrowly avoided collision with an uncharted rogue planet, its black surface invisible against the void until they were almost upon it. But 7 months and 12 days after departure, the Prometheus arrived at HD 85,512. As the ship decelerated into the system, the crew gathered silently on the bridge, staring at the main view screen. The innermost planet was a smoking ruin, its surface scarred by weapon impacts visible even from orbit. Massive debris fields indicated where space stations or orbital defenses had been destroyed. But among the wreckage, sensors detected active power signatures. "Someone's still alive down there," Captain Davidson murmured. "Prepare the communication suite. Let's let them know we're here." The response was almost instantaneous. A transmission burst from the planet's surface, carrying with it a flurry of mathematical sequences, universal language, proof of intelligence. As the translation software processed the message, the crew held their breath. Then words appeared on the screen. "Unknown vessel. You are not Corvin. Identify immediately." Captain Davidson straightened her uniform, squared her shoulders, and faced the communication array. "This is Captain Maya Davidson of the United Nations Starship Prometheus, from the planet Earth. We received your distress call. We've come to help." There was a long pause before the reply came. "Earth. We have no record of this world. How did you achieve interstellar travel?" The signal was sent only to known spacefaring species within our database. "We weren't spacefaring when you sent it," Elena explained, stepping forward. "We've developed quickly." Another pause. "You crossed 36 light years to help a species you've never encountered, based solely on a distress call." Davidson's expression was solemn. "That's correct. Then you are either the greatest fools or the greatest heroes the galaxy has ever known. And right now, we desperately need both. Permission to dock at the following coordinates. Please, hurry." As the Prometheus descended through the atmosphere of the Vrelian homeworld, The crew got their first glimpse of the devastation. What had once been magnificent crystal cities were now shattered ruins. The planet's twin moons were partially destroyed, creating a ring of debris that occasionally rained down as meteorites. The landing zone was a fortified bunker, one of the few structures still intact. As the ship touched down, Captain Davidson prepared to make history. The first human to set foot on an alien world, to meet an alien species. The airlock cycled open, and the delegation from Earth stepped out onto Vrelian soil. Standing before them were the Vrelians, tall, slender beings with iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors with their emotions. Their large, multifaceted eyes studied the humans with a mixture of fear, hope, and confusion. One stepped forward, its skin pulsing between blue and green. "I am First Guardian Zelia," it said, the translator rendering its musical language into English. "Welcome to what remains of Vrelia. You have come at the darkest hour of our existence." Captain Davidson offered a formal bow. "We're honored to meet you, First Guardian. We've brought medical supplies, technology, and personnel to assist however we can." The Vrelian's skin darkened. "I fear you do not understand the magnitude of what you face. The Corvan Dominion is unlike anything your species has encountered. They do not seek resources or territory. They seek only to consume life itself." "Show us," Alina said simply. "Show us what we're up against." The First Guardian led them to a secure chamber deep within the bunker. There, on a holographic display, they saw footage of the Corvan, massive, armored creatures that seemed to be composed of living metal and organic components fused together in horrific combinations. "They arrive without warning," Zelia explained. "They consume our technology, incorporate it into themselves, and become stronger. They adapt to every weapon we develop, and they never, ever retreat." Jackson Torres studied the footage with a professional eye. "How many are there?" "We estimate their fleet at 300 capital ships, each carrying approximately 10,000 Corvan warriors. They have established a base on our outer planet from which they launch their attacks." The humans exchanged glances. The Prometheus carried a crew of just 142, with limited armaments. "First Guardian," Captain Davidson said carefully, "I want to be clear. We want to help you, but we're just one ship. We don't have the numbers or firepower to defeat an enemy of this size." Zalia's skin turned a deep, sorrowful purple. "We did not expect you to fight our war for us, Captain. We hoped only for technology, for new weapons the Corvan have not yet adapted to. But now that I see you," the alien's multifaceted eyes scanned them curiously, "your physiology is remarkable. You are much more physically dense than we are. And your planet?" "Earth is what we call a terrestrial planet," Alina explained. "Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, varied climate zones, about 70% ocean coverage." "And its gravity, atmospheric pressure, radiation levels." Alina provided the figures, watching as the Vrelian skin cycled through shades of surprise. "Captain," Zelia said, a new tone in its translated voice, "you come from what we would classify as a death world. I'm sorry. A planet with environmental conditions so extreme that most spacefaring species could not survive there. High gravity, dense atmosphere, significant radiation, extreme temperature variations, aggressive microbiota. Your species evolved under conditions that would kill most sentient life forms in the galaxy." The humans looked at each other in confusion. Earth had always seemed quite hospitable to them. "What the First Guardian is saying," Wei Chang interjected, having joined them from the ship, "is that we might be physically stronger than we realized. At least in relative terms." Zelia's skin rippled with a new color, something like hope. "The Corvan have never encountered Deathworlders before. They have no defenses against what they have never faced." The alien stepped closer. "Perhaps you did not come to fight our war for us, humans, but you may have brought us something more valuable than weapons." "What's that?" Davidson asked. "A new strategy," Zelia replied. "One the Corvan will never expect. The Deathworlders arrive. The Vrelians gathered in silent awe as Jackson Torres lifted a metal beam that had fallen across an important access corridor. The beam weighed over 600 pounds, a crushing weight for a Vrelian, but merely strenuous for a human from a high-gravity world. Torres set it down with a grunt, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's not just physical strength," Dr. Elena Reyes explained to the fascinated Vrelian scientists who had been conducting tests on the human volunteers. "Our bodies evolved with redundant systems. We have 2 lungs, 2 kidneys. Our livers can regenerate. We have an endoskeleton protected by layers of muscle and fat. We heal from wounds that would be fatal to your people." First Guardian Zalia's skin rippled with colors of astonishment. "And your endurance. The tests indicate you can continue physical activity long after exhaustion would incapacitate one of us." "Persistence hunting," Captain Davidson said. "It's how our ancestors caught prey. We're not the fastest species on our planet, but we could keep going until faster animals collapsed from exhaustion." The implications weren't lost on the Vrelians. For 3 decades, they had fought a losing war against the Corvin, a war of technological attrition, where each new Vrelian weapon or defense was quickly analyzed and countered. The Corvin adapted to energy weapons, to projectiles, to chemical agents, but they had never faced humans, creatures whose very biology defied Corvin expectations. In the depths of the Vrelian command center, a plan took shape. Not a plan to win the war outright. The humans were too few for that, but a plan to strike a blow significant enough to buy time. Time for the Vrelians to rebuild, to develop new defenses. Time, perhaps, to send ships back to Earth to forge a stronger alliance. The target was the Corvin processing facility on Vrelia's outer moon, Terrace. Intelligence suggested it was where the Corvin analyzed captured Vrelian technology and biological specimens. Destroy it, and the Corvin's ability to adapt would be temporarily crippled. "It's a suicide mission," Admiral Korsh, the Vrelian military commander, stated bluntly. His skin flickered between resigned gray and the dark red of battle readiness. "The facility is too well defended for a direct assault." "Then we don't go in directly," Torres countered. "We insert a small team, set the charges, and extract before they know what hit them." The Vrelians exchanged glances, their skin cycling through doubtful hues. "Infiltration is impossible," Admiral Korsh insisted. "The Corvin detect our life signs from orbit. Every attempt at stealth insertion has ended with our operatives being captured before they reach the ground." Captain Davidson leaned forward over the holographic display of the Corvin facility. "What if they're detecting something specific to Vrelian physiology? Something humans don't have?" The question sparked a flurry of activity. Vrelian scientists compared human and Vrelian biological scans, searching for differences the Corvin sensors might target. They found the answer in the quantum resonance of Vrelian neural tissues, a subtle energy pattern absent in human brains. They calibrated their sensors for our specific neural signatures, the Vrelian chief scientist announced, skin flashing excited yellow. "Human neural patterns are different enough that you might slip past their perimeter undetected." The mission was greenlit. A team of 12 humans, 8 from the Prometheus's security detail, and 4 scientists with combat training, would insert via a stealth shuttle, penetrate the facility, plant fusion charges at key structural points, and extract. The Vrelians would provide technical support and equipment, but could not physically join the mission without triggering alarms. Preparations moved quickly. The human team trained in Vrelian combat simulators, learning the layout of the facility and the weaknesses of Corvin defenders. They were equipped with modified Vrelian battle suits, lightweight armor that enhanced their already formidable strength and endurance. Dr. Elena Reyes, whose background included both xenobiology and field medicine, volunteered despite Captain Davidson's reservations. "This is what I've trained for my entire life," Elena argued. "Understanding alien biology, finding weaknesses we can exploit. You need me on this mission." Davidson reluctantly agreed, but insisted on leading the team herself rather than remaining on the Prometheus. If we're asking our people to risk their lives, I won't do it from the safety of orbit. The night before launch, a somber mood fell over the human quarters. Some wrote letters to family they might never see again. Others checked and rechecked their equipment. Torres found Davidson alone on the observation deck, staring up at the shattered moons of Relia. "Having second thoughts, Captain?" he asked quietly. Davidson shook her head. "Just thinking about how far we've come. A few months ago, I was worried about geopolitical tensions on Earth. Now we're about to engage in combat with an alien species to save another alien species." She turned to face him. "Did you ever imagine this is where your career would take you?" Torres smiled grimly. "Can't say that I did. But I've always gone where I'm needed. Right now, we're needed here." He paused. "The crew's ready. Whatever happens tomorrow, they'll give everything they've got." "I know they will," Davidson replied. "Let's make sure it's enough." Dawn broke over the Vrelian capital, or what remained of it. The human strike team boarded their shuttle under cover of a Vrelian counterattack in another sector, designed to draw Corvan attention away from the launch site. As the shuttle lifted off, Dr. Elena Reyes felt her heart pounding against her ribs. This wasn't a scientific expedition anymore. This was war. The journey to Terrace took 3 hours, the shuttle using minimal power to avoid detection. They landed 2 miles from the facility, in a crater that shielded them from observation. As the team exited the shuttle, they got their first direct view of the Corvan world. Terrace had once been a beautiful moon with crystal forests and flowing rivers of liquid nitrogen. Now it was a blasted wasteland, transformed by Corvan industry into a nightmare landscape of metal and flesh fused together. The facility itself rose like a malignant growth from the surface, pulsing with unnatural energies. "I know they will," Davidson replied. "Let's make sure it's enough." Dawn broke over the Vrelian capital, or what remained of it. The human strike team boarded their shuttle under cover of a Vrelian counterattack in another sector, designed to draw Corvan attention away from the launch site. As the shuttle lifted off, Dr. Elena Reyes felt her heart pounding against her ribs. This wasn't a scientific expedition anymore. This was war. The journey to Terrace took 3 hours, the shuttle using minimal power to avoid detection. They landed 2 miles from the facility, in a crater that shielded them from observation. As the team exited the shuttle, they got their first direct view of the Corvan world. Terrace had once been a beautiful moon with crystal forests and flowing rivers of liquid nitrogen. Now it was a blasted wasteland, transformed by Corvan industry into a nightmare landscape of metal and flesh fused together. The facility itself rose like a malignant growth from the surface, pulsing with unnatural energies. "Remember the plan," Davidson said, her voice steady through the comm system. "We move in teams of 3. Plant the charges at the designated points. Rendezvous back here in 90 minutes. If anyone is compromised, you maintain comm silence and proceed with the mission. The charges go off whether we're clear or not." "Understood." 12 helmets nodded in unison. Then they moved out, crossing the scared terrain with a speed and agility that would have been impossible for Vrelian troops. The first team reached the facility perimeter without incident, confirming that the Corvan sensors were indeed blind to human neural signatures. They disabled an external power conduit, creating a gap in the facility's energy field that allowed the other teams to infiltrate. Inside, the horror of the Corvan operation became clear. The walls were lined with containment pods, each holding a Vrelian or pieces of Vrelian technology in various stages of dissection. The organisms within the facility, if they could be called that, were nightmarish amalgamations of machine and flesh, moving with unnatural precision. Team 1, led by Torres, planted charges in the facility's power core. Team 2, under the command of Dr. Chung, targeted the central data repository. Team 3, with Davidson and Reyes, headed for the biological research section, believed to be where the Corvan developed their adaptive capabilities. It was Team 3 that encountered the first real resistance. As they planted their charges, a Corvan sentinel detected them, not through neural scanning, but through simple visual observation. The creature was massive, nearly 9 feet tall, with multiple limbs ending in weapons or tools. Its central mass pulsed with a sickly light. "Down!" Davidson shouted as the sentinel fired, a stream of molecular acid spraying across the chamber. The acid hit the wall behind them, immediately eating through the metal. Torres, responding to Davidson's alert, came in from a side corridor and emptied his weapon into the sentinel's central mass. The creature staggered but did not fall. Instead, its body seemed to reconfigure, hardening against the specific energy signature of the human weapons. "They're adapting," Rise realized with horror, just like the Vrelians did. But unlike the Vrelians, humans had more than technology at their disposal. Davidson drew the combat knife from her belt, a simple piece of carbon steel, sharper than a surgical scalpel thanks to molecular edge alignment. As the sentinel turned toward Torres, she launched herself at its back, using her suit's enhanced strength to drive the blade deep into what appeared to be a neural cluster. The sentinel convulsed, its limbs flailing wildly. Davidson was thrown against a wall with bone-crushing force, but her dense terrestrial physiology and the suit's protection absorbed damage that would have killed a Vrelian instantly. She rose, bloodied but functional, as the sentinel collapsed. "Primitive but effective," Rise commented, helping Davidson to her feet. "They can adapt to energy signatures, but not to a knife in the back." "Set the charges," Davidson ordered, grimacing through the pain of what was certainly several cracked ribs. "We need to move." That thing probably alerted others. They finished their task and began the extraction, only to find their route cut off by Corvan forces responding to the Sentinel's alarm. The 3 teams converged at an emergency rally point, finding themselves trapped in a laboratory section near the facility's core. "Options?" Davidson asked, as the sounds of Corvan searchers grew closer. Torres checked his tactical display. "The charges are all placed. We've completed the primary objective. Now we just need to get out before they detonate." "The main routes are all blocked," Chang reported, his face grim behind his visor. "But I've been studying their ventilation system. There's a maintenance tunnel that leads to the exterior waste processing area. It's narrow, barely large enough for us to crawl through." "Show me," Davidson ordered. The tunnel was indeed narrow, a claustrophobic passage that wound through the facility's infrastructure. One by one, the human team members entered, crawling on their bellies through the confined space. They were halfway to the exit when the facility's automated defenses detected the tunnel breach. Emergency bulkheads began to close along the passage. "Move," Davidson shouted from her position at the rear of the group. "Everyone out now." The team accelerated, a desperate race against mechanical systems designed to seal any breach. 11 made it through the final bulkhead. Captain Davidson, slowed by her injuries, did not. "Captain," Torres called, reaching back through the narrowing gap. "Complete the mission, Specialist," Davidson replied calmly. "Get our people home." Then the bulkhead sealed with a final, ominous thud. The remaining team members emerged from the facility, racing across the blasted landscape toward their shuttle. Behind them, the charges they had planted began to detonate in sequence, rippling explosions that tore through the Corvan structure. As they reached the shuttle, Torres paused, looking back at the collapsing facility. In the chaos of the explosions, a small figure in a battlesuit emerged from a peripheral exit, running with the characteristic gait of someone fighting through severe pain. "Hold launch," Torres shouted, sprinting back toward the figure. It was Davidson, bloodied and limping, but very much alive. "Thought I told you to complete the mission," she gasped as Torres reached her, supporting her weight. "Respectfully, Captain, I am completing it," Torres replied. "The mission includes bringing you home." They made it to the shuttle seconds before the facility's power core went critical, producing an explosion that momentarily turned night to day across half the moon's surface. As they accelerated away from Terrace, the team watched through the viewports as the Corvan facility, and all its horrors, vanished in nuclear fire. Back on Frelia, the human team was received as heroes. The destruction of the processing facility had dealt the Corvin a significant blow. Without their primary adaptation center, the invaders' technological advantage was temporarily stalled. More importantly, the mission had provided invaluable intelligence. The humans had confirmed what the Vrelians had suspected but could never prove. The Corvin were not a natural species, but a synthetic one, an ancient weapon created by a long-vanished civilization, designed to evolve and consume, but with exploitable weaknesses in their programming. They can adapt to energy weapons, to chemicals, to complex technology, Dr. Rice explained to the combined human and Vrelian command staff. But they struggle with simple physical attacks, with primitive weapons, with tactics that rely on strength and endurance rather than technological superiority. First Guardian Zalia's skin rippled with colors of hope, bright golds and blues that had not been seen on a Vrelian in decades. You have given us more than victory in a single battle. You have given us a path forward. Plans were already forming. The Prometheus would return to Earth, carrying Vrelian ambassadors and technical specialists. They would forge a formal alliance, combining Vrelian technology with human physicality to create weapons and tactics the Corvin could not easily counter. Earth would prepare defenses should the Corvin ever turn their attention toward the Sol system. And humanity would step onto the galactic stage not as newcomers, but as saviors, the unexpected Deathworlders who had answered a desperate plea and changed the course of an interstellar war. On the final night before the Prometheus began its journey home, Captain Davidson stood again on the observation deck, her injuries healing but still painful. First Guardian Zelia joined her, the Vrelian skin a contemplative shade of blue. Your people called us heroes when we arrived, Davidson said quietly, but we were just answering a call for help. That is what makes you heroes, Zelia replied. In a galaxy where most species look to their own interests first, you cross the stars for strangers. The Vrelian skin shifted to a color Davidson had never seen before, a deep, vibrant purple that seemed to glow from within. We have a word in our language, Kurvasha. It means those who stand against the dark. From this day forward, that is what we will call humans. Davidson smiled slightly. I like that. Kurvasha. She looked out at the stars, at the vast expanse that her ship would soon traverse again. I think we've both learned something important. You discovered that strength comes in many forms, not just technological advancement. And what did you learn, Captain? Zelia asked. Davidson considered the question. That we're not alone. That the universe is larger and stranger and more dangerous than we ever imagined. She turned to face the Vrelian. But also that it contains wonders worth protecting and friends worth finding. As the Prometheus departed Vrelian space the next day, carrying its cargo of alliance proposals and technological exchanges, the crew understood that they were leaving as different people than when they had arrived. They had come as explorers and rescuers. They were returning as warriors and diplomats, representatives of a species now known to the stars. The signal that had traveled 36 light-years to reach Earth had done more than request aid. It had initiated humanity's true entrance onto the galactic stage. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. But as the Prometheus engaged its Alcubierre drive, creating that familiar ripple in space-time, Captain Davidson knew that their journey was just beginning. The Corvin were wounded, not defeated. The alliance with the Vrelians was fragile, not certain, and humanity's place among the stars was tentative, not assured. Yet for now, it was enough to have answered the call, to have reached across the void to a dying civilization, and said, simply and clearly, "You are not alone. We heard you. We came." And that, perhaps, was the most human thing of all.